I need help, boss.
Stands up and says it louder. He goes, I have a really big penis.
We're the NSAA. We're never serious about anything except grip ball.
I have drifted an aircraft carrier.
What?
To an extent, but you'd be out there alone as fuck. There's no...
Just bumping into people by osmosis of dopeness, you know?
3, 2, 1. We're going.
Welcome, everybody. It is the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's our most specialist episode of them all that we'll probably ever have. And so we want to first say thank you to all of our listeners. We hope that you enjoy this and get something from this. And that if you maybe haven't had an experience of having a father, that this might help you in some way. Ask the question that you need to ask and do what you need to do to discover who you are, because that's half of who you are. And so what brought this episode about, it's actually our last gift to our dad. In telling his story, because he passed away. And so we just want to give you this shit from the heart, from us, for the whole Woodruff family, because our dad's a good man. And I've told a lot of stories from my dad's life when he was going through a lot of, internal emotional battles and financial crisis and all different kinds of stuff, that happens in life. And it was after our parents had got divorced. And we'll kind of go through the story and touch on the highlight points. And there's going to be a lot of happy, funny moments because my dad is a character and there's no way we became the goofball, loving, outgoing people that we are without our pops, So we just want to do something and give it to you from the heart. So for anyone listening, thank you. And where should we begin, Cole? What do you think?
Oh man, it's hard to even think about that. I think where I really want to start is, my dad is one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. Like the work ethic that my dad had, I've never seen anybody else have in my life. And I'm not just saying that because he's my dad. I've watched this dude work fucking countless overtime shifts to the point where he would always tell me, man, I stopped counting how many times I worked overtime after I reached 1,000 shifts. And
Damn.
that's a lot, man. My dad loved work.
Yeah,
man.
he worked. Our dad worked in CRCI, Columbia River Correctional Institute, as the head nurse there, and ran like the medical office there.
He was the triage nurse there, head triage.
Yeah, for like
24 years.
Yeah.
Damn.
Long time. So, our dad has literally saved my life on multiple accounts, and we'll get into that too.
So I remember.
Continue.
So the only way I can describe how hard my dad worked and how much of a man he was for his family was when I was a kid. I remember one of the reasons why I wake up so early and I'm such an early bird is because when I was a kid, the only time I was able to see my dad was when he was getting ready for work at 5 a.m. And so every day I would wake up just in the morning just so I can talk to my dad and just spend time with him, because I knew that the whole entire day he was going to be out working or doing whatever he was doing to make money to earn or to bring back for my family, and it was always so much fun just hanging out with him. And I remember being a kid, I was always asking him to tell me stories. He was such a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories when I was a kid was I was always asking him to tell me the legend of Sleepy Hollow. I love that story
The
with
headless
Ichabod
horseman.
Crane and the Headless Horseman. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that was my like favorite horror story growing up. Like for kids that were like when I was a kid, like that to me was like watching The Shining or like It or something
Yeah,
like that.
we would be super like I was mad little because this was when our mom and dad were still together and they split up when I was like 4 or something, I think. 4.5 maybe. And we would sit in the bathtub and my dad would like drum the horse's footsteps as he's like telling the
I
story.
totally
The
forgot that.
immersion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he did the whole story, like everything, all the noises and stuff. And maybe that, looking back on it, is like where we began loving stories because both of us went to school for film. Um, and I actually followed in my brother's footsteps on that one. But to keep with our dad, uh, he used to tell us about some of the shit that he would treat people of because
Oh yeah.
I didn't know how he put me back together. Like when I was little, I was riding on this bike one time. My brother cracked me off the bike full stride, with a golf club. It was a plastic one, but he just shattered it right on my eye.
It was an accident.
It was an accident,
I
but
think
my
you told me
eyelid,
this story once.
yeah, my eyelid was all busted. And I remember I passed out like instantly just as a little kid seeing the blood. I was like, I'm out, And my mom was freaking out, but my dad was like, butterfly bandages.
Yeah.
And my dad saves so many people's lives that it's really inspiring. And for anyone whose parent has worked really hard and you feel that they missed out on a lot of shit, because I was kind of resentful
We
of
both were.
of how much my dad worked because I didn't understand
Right.
what his work meant to him,
Hmm.
and it was his way of giving, his way of providing, and it was his calling in life, and he took great pride in it. I found out from our stepmom, we both did just the other day. Our dad would actually go up to people and before they were released and things like that, make sure that they knew where they could go to get their meds and things like that. And
He would make
really, while he was treating people, he was teaching them to be healthy.
one of the really
Um,
cool things about like to add to that is, my dad, like he didn't treat the prisoners like they were prisoners. He knew that they were people, so he treated them like people, and that's one of the reasons they held so much respect for him. Not only when you came into the line and you were talking to my dad, was he breaking your chops, so like you could get some sort of like laughter out of the day, but also on top of that, he was making sure that you were taken care of. Like he would tell me multiple times that like he would check on people for if they had like lung problems or if they had anything going on with them. Like if you had something going on with you, say you had like some lung problems going on and my dad knew about it, he tried his best to treat that for you. And then the next day or the next couple days when he saw you, he would always check up on you and be like, "Hey man, I knew you were having lung problems. Like how's that going? Is it all right?" So it's not like he just was there to work. He really cared about the people that he worked with, even down to the point where it was like the prisoners, when it's like they're not his coworkers, but he still cared about them enough to know that like
well, he
they
never
were a
saw,
person.
yeah, he never saw them as less than human. And like, he's given me this speech so many times. He'd say, son, it's an environment. And although it's a minimum security prison, you just gotta be on your toes. But I'm not there to make their life bad. I'm there to make their life better.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, so when people would come in, we'd sit down, and the first conversation we have is, look, don't bullshit me about your symptoms. Tell me what's really happening. I will always treat you with respect, you know? Just do not lie to me, you know? And as long as that's cool, I'd love to break your chops. Don't come down here for no reason.
Yeah.
Um, just we have to do it that way because there's just too many people. But I see you, you know? And he would answer people's questions in line, although he had like each when he's doing Medline had each person has like a 45 step like question
It's
kind
like a
of
checklist, like a 45-step checklist that my dad had to go through to make sure everything was accurate to the dot.
Yeah.
And so in that time frame of him going through that list, he would answer questions that other people had in line, even if it was like the person behind him or the same person that he was dealing with. He would always answer the questions that they had if he had the answer to them.
and people fuck with going to the med clinic because our dad was a rocker, fool. You know, like, I'm telling
He
you,
loved classic
Um,
rock, man. That's where I get my love for classic rock so much. You know,
yeah.
What's the
grew up-
song you guys remember listening to that he would play?
Oh, bro, there's so many. Anything from the Rolling Stones. He loved the blues too. He loved B.B. King.
Yeah.
You know, he
I was
loved
talking to him
Stevie
about
Ray
Robert
Vaughan.
Johnson. You know,
Okay.
Howlin', Wolf, you know, all of those old classic bluesy guys.
And
you
he liked
know.
reggae a lot too.
Oh yeah, he
but
did. But
Alright.
he
that
was
was,
a rocker to the core. Like I'm telling you, Bob Seger was his shit.
he
You know,
went to so many concerts.
Van Halen, the Eagles, AC/DC, fucking
My dad
Ozzy.
played a lot of Pink Floyd.
That was our dad's shit.
Yeah,
that was,
bro.
like, his
Pink
favorite-
Floyd was the
Oh,
best,
My,
dude.
my dad went to so many Pink Floyd concerts.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
went to one in, I believe it was Santa Fe, right? And he told me when he was coming up to the door, right? Like everyone's in line, and they had this big old like can that it was on fire, and they were trying to search people for drugs and put it
No.
in the can. So everyone's like, "Shit, what do I do?" And he was like, "I had like 2 grams of hash on me," you know. And he was like, "Fuck," and so he's like, "I guess I'm just gonna gum it," right? So our
Oh.
dad does like this huge like dip basically of hash, right? Which in theory, right, it probably needs some heat to activate, but I don't care. If you let that shit sit in your mouth where it gets into your saliva, bro,
Yeah.
it's
It's a
bloodstream.
wrap.
Okay,
It's a
brother.
wrap, bro.
Chomping an edible. So our dad's super ripped, and he said it was in the baseball stadium, and everybody was on the field, right?
Okay.
And it was nighttime, right? So everything's pitch black, and this pin light comes on the stage, and Roger Waters comes running out, and there was a huge pig sitting above the stadium, right? Roger Waters kind of stumbles out on stage with a fifth of Jack Daniels and a shotgun, right? And he takes
Oh,
this
shit.
fat swig and boom! Pow! He shoots and it explodes. That pig's gone. And my dad was just, he said it was such a huge like burst of energy and air. Everyone in the stadium got blown on their back. Like
Whoa.
everyone was just like, boom! What the fuck? And they're watching the pieces just kind of flying and burning up. And it's pitch black, and all these alarm clocks start going off. Ding, 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 all around the stadium, and they start with time. And I think that same week, Led Zeppelin played.
Oh,
And
shit.
they played like 3 shows there. And my dad was like, he had a garbage bag full of concert tickets. And that was something that he carried with him with like pride and joy, you know? And so music was such a gift. And these things you overlook
Yeah, you really do.
when you're looking at your parents. You know, you don't even know like one big thing is that respecting them and learning them is for you. You know, like you carry that. It's learning you, and it's like a different version of yourself. It's you from another era.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't even know it as a kid. And like our dad, when we were little, our dad was the most impatient man I have ever met
Oh yeah.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back on it and I think like maybe it's because he knew that he wouldn't have the time to show us all the cool shit as an adult.
Yeah.
As an adult. So he showed us as kids. And like all the cool movies when we were little, like watching Rambo and Terminator and Gladiator, and he he showed us and would explain to us like these things happen in real life, but it's a part of life, and this is history. And he would show us all these like documentaries and Discovery Channel, History Channel about like the military history and how things came to be on like a cultural level. And he always loved to travel, and
He loved the Dominican Republic. Oh my God, that was his other home away from home.
and I was so envious, bro.
Yeah.
Like I look at myself and have to take inventory, and it's like I was jealous that my dad would go and do these things sometimes and I wasn't there. But now I look at it and I'm so happy that he lived his life and balled out, because I always told him, I was like, Dad, I'm going to buy you all the sports cars that you want, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, because he'd always talk about, I want my Porsche in red. Or
Yeah.
he'd talk about
Okay.
retiring and get like a Audi A6 just to be cruising in luxury,
All right.
It was either the Porsche or the Audi. It was one of the two.
And I look at it and I'm like, he gave that to himself. And when you look at life, right, in retrospect, like this is so fresh that I still feel like I could, like it's a dream, like I could call him
Hell yeah.
or something, and it's a trip
Exactly.
to know that this is, because I didn't get my dad a gift yet,
I didn't either.
and a lot of people can, take for granted that on Father's Day, and it's a joke, but
Our dad never really asked for gifts though. Like he was always like, just your gift is your presence. He was always so adamant about like, if you want a gift, give me a lottery ticket, or like grab me a Starbucks card. He never really wanted anything like super like duper
extravagant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he was just like, all I need is like your presence. Like I just want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was super cool,
But what I'm getting at is like you look at it and you're like, life and it time is a gift, and when you take inventory on these things, like I was kind of thinking about it and I was like, this is kind of the last real gift that I can give to him, other than being an example of a good man. Because what I got to see through my dad's life, he was very ADHD, and he had a lot of trouble in school, and had a lot of anxiety, interacting with people. Although our dad's a handsome, good-looking dude who's always like, my dad's always been built, bro.
Yeah.
Like strong as a fucking ox. And he was always going and doing cool shit, But in terms of learning how to interact with other people rejected him for what was natural to him, because he might not have picked up on certain social cues, but he was funny, and you could tell a story. And if you had him, you got him in spades, like loyal as fuck, right, to the end. And my dad's so generous, like that was one thing that was cool. Like despite being so aggro, like when we would be in the car, right, our friends, I remember one time we had our friend Gunner in the car with his sister, and
I was just talking to Gunner about this earlier today.
We were coming back from the pool, and we were giggling about something in the back seat, right? I think it was just because the back seat was so small, because he had an old Toyota, like one of the Tacomas, so my knees are like up here, and I think I was sitting on his backpack, so I'm like literally like a roly-poly-oly stuffed against the fucking ceiling of the shit. And I think Gunner's sister was laughing at me, and Colby was somewhere in there because Gunner was in the front seat because he was the biggest. And my dad like can't figure out what's funny, and he goes, "Argh!" Like looks back at us, "Argh! What's so funny?" And we just started cracking up because like we were kids, we were thinking about it like, what the fuck? It was 0 to 100 so quick. We were having fun, but like I was like, that was kind of like he did have that like anxiety of like even like social stuff. And that's not to say that like my dad was like emasculated by kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's one of those infuriating things, that a lot of parents just eat. But like my dad wasn't having it. This is getting addressed, bro. What the fuck is so funny, When
See,
I look at it,
dude, I'd be the same way, bro. I'd be like, "What's funny, dude? I want to
yeah.
know."
Why y'all so like
Yeah.
crack? Yeah, like, and so when our dad was little, he grew up in Southern California, down in Orange County-ish area.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they would like swing through the trees. The walnut trees too. Apparently, they have walnut trees down there. And my dad was hanging upside down on a walnut tree one day. He was little, and his friend tickled his feet or something. They was sitting on the branch, and my dad dropped straight down on his head. Right, and my dad was like in a coma for like, I think like 3 months or something.
Wow.
Like, or not 3 months, 3 weeks or something like that. And he kept trying to escape. Like they were trying to tie him to the bed and shit. Cause even though he was out of it, he escaped from the bed. They were literally, this is back in like, you gotta imagine, this is like the 60s, bro. They had to tie the little kid to the bed. That ain't fucking going down today.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it was another time, bro. And so, yeah, our family was all worried, but like our dad was truly like a cat with 9 lives. I swear to God,
Dude,
it was
yeah.
crazy. Like
He survived so many crazy fucking things, dude. It's ridiculous.
Like,
I remember. I don't know if or Kemp's ever told the story about how we hit a tree doing about 70 miles an hour, bro. But I remember like I had to punch my dad so many fucking times in the face to wake him up that when he did wake up, like it was just a miracle we didn't hit like this fucking telephone pole, and we went through and we managed.
Our dad was like, he falls asleep at the wheel, right? We're on the coast. We just got across the Astoria Bridge, and we're like maybe 15 minutes from Ocean Park. And our dad was like so exhausted because this was like
right
the
after
divorce was like super fresh, and our dad was just exhausted. And he winds up falling asleep. And he starts tearing up these fucking mailboxes because his foot's on the gas when he falls asleep. It's like, and at this point, everything is like slow motion for me. Like instantly, as soon as we got off the road and I popped up because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, although I was in the front seat. My brother's in the center console, strapped in, and then my dad's sitting down or driving, just asleep like that. Okay, go for it. And so,
hey, Robert.
My dad, I guess my brother's punching him, screaming, Dad! And the car, my dad looks up as the car's like coming off the road, and he just steers it really quick. And we go right between a power line that comes down diagonally and a pole, right? So, woof, with a Toyota Tundra,
Wow.
like this is a huge truck doing like 70, bro. And then we plow straight into a tree. Bang! And I just go flying forward. And I'm already in the air. So I'm just like sailing forward. And my head hits the windshield. Bow! And I literally could feel the windshield like crack around the spot on my forehead where I hit, right? And but it felt like a palm made of feathers was there, like a barrier. Like I couldn't go farther than that. And I wound up blowing out the whole windshield, which was the crazy part. Then the airbag goes off, boom! And I literally split the airbag in half and flew and hit the window next to me. And so like my brother's sitting there freaking out because his knees are all stuck in the air vents, and I like come to basically like, what in the fuck? Everything, like the sound came in like fast motion. When the slow motion stopped and I was just in the cab and my dad's just like slumped over, that I in that moment, I just felt like I needed to get help or something.
Mm.
And so I like scurried out of the window and like went up to the road. And it's so crazy. My dad would pass from a car accident because he's had so many and survived so many. Um, but I went up to the road and there's an old man there. And this was my first encounter of my own with an angel. And there's an old man walking across the road, and he had a Suburban parked on the other side of the street that was brown. It was like one from the 80s or something, with like that faded banana cream side paneling. He kneels down to me and he grabs me by my shoulders and goes, "Don't worry, I'm an off-duty paramedic, and the firemen will be here soon." And my dad like screams my name because he must have came to and realized I'm not in the car, and the windshield's all blowed out. Colb's freaking out. Um, and the car had hit so hard that the chassis literally fused. So that window must have became like the only way out because the whole frame of the car fused.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm up at the road. I just turn around and just do one of these because I'm so out of it. I, I don't even know what happened. And literally, I shit you not, like 30 seconds later, a fire truck came around the corner and that guy was gone. Like he just vanished, him and his truck. And it's like, who would leave a 4-year-old on a stretch of highway after a huge car accident if you had the knowledge to come up to them and interact with them like that?
Yeah.
You wouldn't, you know? And so it's just this crazy situation. And I look at these things, and for those that are curious, what happened, our dad was driving to work, um, going down Columbia Boulevard, and he fell asleep. Or he didn't fall asleep, like it was a medical emergency or something. Someone saw it, and they said that he just like slumped over the wheel. And our dad's not, even though he fell asleep in that instance when he was exhausted, our dad was full of energy. This was like right in the morning. He just woken up. He had energy, you know. Fell asleep or slumped over. Gosh damn it. You're going to have to edit that.
It's okay, bro. We know what you mean.
Yeah, he slumped over. It's hard to think about. And he like went off of the road and hit a telephone pole. And he split the pole in half. He hit it so hard. And he must have been in the air, because Columbia kind of dips. And the truck spun around, and then he landed with the corner of the semi right into the cab because it was parked. It was a stationary one, just the trailer. And where the car would tuck under to hitch the trailer, that's where the hood of my dad's car went. And he just went into the trailer. But, there's so many lessons. And you can look at it and be mad about what makes you the man that or woman that you're meant to become, but you don't get to choose that. You can choose how you feel about it to a certain extent. Some shit's fucked up, it's just fucked up. But life is always worth living if you have a purpose, and every day that you wake up is a sign, that you're blessed to go have some fun. Like, fuck it, go get it, My dad was always gonna ski, and he always told me I'm gonna work until I can't work no more because, I love what I do. And he felt that he was a healer, of sorts, and just in taking care of another human being, people that like him might not have been accepted, in the way they wanted to, might not have had the things inside themselves or experienced fatherhood or whatever it may have been their road, but to treat them in a way that they knew they were worthy, and to acknowledge them and empower them, and when my dad passed, they the craziest thing happened. There was a lady I used to um, sell weed to at the dispensary, and she was from Georgia, and she called me her peach. And her son was incarcerated where my dad worked, and when they told the prisoners, you know, everyone, he happened to be one of the guys that my dad treated while he was in there, you know. And a lot of the people in the prison were fucked up about it, you know, because my dad had been there for so long, and they blasted rock music all day, like as long as they could, you know. And I just look at that and I'm like, that's so fucking dope, you know. And like, it's the little things in life, like
Yeah.
that make you human. My dad would wear different scrubs, and he loved football so much that it's like he couldn't choose one team, so he just had hella scrubs of different teams. And one of his ways that he would really bring you know, life from the outside and that perspective into the prison is as he was serving people on the med line, he would wear different scrubs and talk shit, you know, and ask them, you know, and talk football with the inmates and stuff, because he never saw them as, you know, inmates. He said there were people that, you know, they got caught, and there's different, you know, I
Yeah.
I just didn't in some of the instances, you know, and the things that I did get caught for just thankfully didn't ever land me there, you know.
Mhm.
But people are always worth a shot, you know, and if you show up and you just show them some and be an example, eventually they'll get it. Um, and my dad went from being a very um, hurt and angry man um, with a very kind heart, you know, frustrated with life, you know, feeling that as hard as I work to hold everything together, it's just slipping through my fingers, you know, financially, emotionally, in relationship, you know, with my mom, and you know, subsequently with us, because when you're kids, you're just going off of the emotions, you know.
Yeah.
And as men, we take for granted that you might not hit somebody, but how you speak to somebody can actually carry an energy and a presence, you know,
Yeah.
that if you don't check that shit, um, can really fuck up a household, and the influence you have upon your kids because of how they receive you. Um, and you can't unexperience something, you know, like
Mhm.
trust is trust is on you, you know, you build it through consistency. So you can fuck up, but and it's not the end of the world, but you got to earn that trust back.
Yeah.
You got to earn that, you know, and you do that by when you give someone a home, you make the world safe for them. And like a dad is like a Superman. And that's how I saw my dad. I would come out in the morning and he would be doing push-ups when I was really little. And he'd have me and my brother sit on his back, and I shit you not, he would bust out like 50 to like 100 push-ups,
Dang.
depending on the morning, you know,
Yeah.
with us on his back. Yeah, and he worked in a psych ward for a little while. Um, 'Cause we were really broke while he was going to school, and I think he was washing UPS trucks or something like that.
Mhm.
He was sick a lot. And he could only buy like one pair of shoes a year. And it was, when I say the little things, I walked over to the sliding glass door by his house. I looked at his shoes, and they were so fucking worn in, you know. And I was like, he put those motherfuckers on every day for the people that he loved, you know.
Yeah.
And like when your dad goes, that's the kind of shit that you look at and you see it different because it's right there in front of you. Um, they might not know how to receive what you're saying, but if they're interested, like that's a real sign of respect. Um, yeah, you got any questions? I don't want to just ramble this whole
No,
time.
dude, like this is yeah, I mean, you're telling about who your dad was. It's hard to, I mean, you're telling in very good detail, first of all, and it's easy to follow because it's relatable.
All right.
It's relatable. Like everything you're saying, I can relate to in some regard. You know, feelings towards my dad, my parents, and stuff like that. And like I've had the just the thought of how it would feel when my dad passes. And that alone almost brings me to tears. And so I can't imagine, you know, how hard it is emotionally to actually have to do that, you know?
You
Um,
don't you don't know. And that's why you don't know until you find out.
yeah.
And I've said it before on the podcast, but part of being a good man is to be an ambassador for that safe feeling. Um, and everybody that feels scared, because we're all little kids in big pants, you know.
Mhm.
But and we all have questions. And my dad used to love it. When I was little, I would always come up to him and say, "Dad, I have a question." And he would just smile and look at me and he'd be like, "I'm not surprised," you know? Like, hit me with it. And once he hit me with it, I'd walk away. Or I'd say, "Well, why?" I'd have another question. It would just be this series of questions, you know? And I would hammer him with them like really early in the morning sometimes, like literally anytime I talked to him. Um, and he was always open to it.
Yeah.
He might not have like an answer for it, and you can't expect to be understood. That's why we're having these conversations, you know? And there's a lot of things, or I was hard on my dad.
Mhm.
Keep it real. I was hard on my dad, because I was hurt. And you don't ever want to have someone die and have any kind of regret, you know? And I have no doubt in my mind that I'm so loved, you know? But I say to you, like, whatever it may be, even if it's something that's fucking with you, ask them about it. Ask them why. And if they give you an answer that's whack, be like, well, why do you feel that way? Like, why do you really feel that way? Like, what are you really frustrated about? Because I love you. And
Right.
if not that, because I'm trying to understand you in order so I can understand me, you know? It's a respect thing, you know? And once people understand that you're trying to respect them by asking them questions, not questioning them
Yeah.
in their integrity, you know, you're able to have more conversations. And, you know, you don't always have to be, you, nobody's perfect. So you can't trip on if you're not the, just because you're not perfect doesn't mean you're not the perfect person for the job. And I think that's what a father shows us. Because we're flawed, but we're half of a household's energy. And bigger than that, half of this world, you know, falls on the shoulders of men to be good,
Yeah.
to be better than um, their shortcomings, and to look at the test they just failed and smile to take the other one. You know, the next one. Look forward to the next one. Yeah, you failed that one. What are you gonna do about it? You know, and as kids, you know, not to be resentful of your place and needing to ask for things sometimes and ask for help because you want to be independent. But it's a parent's pride to take care of their child, you know, and it's an honor. And, you know, I feel so blessed that my dad would tell me that. Like, I didn't like to hit him up for stuff because when we were little, you know, and my mom and dad split up in order to, my dad, in order to move right, you know, and try and get set up so we would have a life with him too.
Mhm.
He took, he wanted half the house, you know, so my mom had to take out this loan for half of the house that over time kind of had become bigger, but she made that sacrifice because she didn't want to move us and break things up. Um, and so my dad, in doing that, like we, despite getting child support from him, had a really hard time making bills, and
Mhm.
that really affects a family and children. Like we thought we had a awesome upbringing and still do, but looking back on it, I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
Like some people are super lucky that grow up and they haven't seen their parent fall asleep in their food or count pennies to make bills and pray as they clean the house because they're thankful they have the house, things like that. Like, but there's soul in that, and there's a purpose in it too. Um, and you learn to cherish different things through it. But what I'm saying is, um, like I was kind of resentful, and I wish I would have asked my dad for more so he could have more moments being like, Dad's got you. You know what I mean? And now he's always gonna have my back. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
For real. Um, it's so crazy to say, but when he passed, although it was super and is super surreal, it's like I'm not scared in a sense. Like I felt like I don't have to be scared of what can happen because life can be really scary, you know? And you just gotta live. You just gotta
Yeah.
live ferociously, to have fun and be impactful to people and to give whatever the fuck it is that you do. I don't care if you make fucking candles out of earwax, figure it out. Make the best earwax candle anyone's ever fucking barfed over. I don't know. But there's
That was
this.
really, really elegantly said until that moment.
Yeah, glad to be
Oh,
swallowed.
man.
But yeah, and I really want to give a shout out to Brian and everyone over at PDX Arsenal. Excuse my crazy hair, But this morning, out of the kindness of his heart, that man reached out to me and invited me to go shooting because that was something I did with my dad, or was gonna. The last time I saw him was in the gun store, and I had, sold him a gun, and we were planning on going out shooting together and training together and stuff. And I had just seen Brian because he had taken me to go shoot on Tuesday, and my dad passed the next day. And we were out there shooting and just having fun. And I was telling him, I was like, "Yeah, bro, my dad and my brother would love this, And he made sure that on Father's Day I got to go shoot, and he invited my brother too. And yeah, I had a blast with that guy, and it really like sent home that message of what a good man is and can provide in a time of need. And as men looking at our country, at our world right now, and especially how we treat each other as brothers and treat our women and children, like it's so important for us to look at each other and not just accept that we can't not own our influence. Really, we need to own our influence and be a leader in whatever way you can, and I think that's what PDX Arsenal represents by who Brian is. And he showed me some integrity as a man, like I showed up to do this podcast because I realize the world needs to hear this, and we need to know it's okay when you go through it to express to the world what you struggle with within yourself in private, because those are the things that people need to learn to overcome in life. That's what they need guidance on. And that's what being a father is, and giving people a place to come home. That feeling of, I don't care what you did, we can address it, and there still needs to be responsibility for that action. But I don't care if you're drugged out. I don't care what it is. You need a place to come home, and to be accepted, and to be taken in, and given that nourishment, because you need it, and we're all figuring it out. We're all just figuring it out, you know.
Where'd I come in at? I'm sorry.
I don't know. You can just start it up. What are you thinking?
Um,
Tell us what's something funny that you remember about Dad doing.
Oh fuck, dude. I don't know if Kemper ever told this story, man, but my brother already said my dad is an impatient son of a bitch, or at least he used to be. And he's always been one hell of a speed demon. I love my dad to death, but man, did that man love to speed, And I remember me and my brother used to go to this church when we were little, and it was actually really cool until it got like pretty Waco culty-ish. Like there at the end
Okay.
of the time, yeah, at the end of
Okay.
at the end of us going to this church, Zach, there was literally like snipers on the top of the roofs when we were
What?
walking to this church. Yeah, it was some crazy ass
That's
cult shit,
gnarly,
bro.
bro.
The owner was doing the pastor or something was doing some kind of fraudulent.
So like the
Ooh.
the pastor and the wife was the one that was like the main staple of the church, and then her husband, like she was like the face of the church, and she was always so nice. I loved his wife.
Yeah.
But this dude was embezzling money from the church behind her back without
What?
even knowing, and it got like really really culty. But anyways, my dad used to do all the recordings for this church, and out of all the people that were going to do like recordings on a camera, it was my dad that literally knew nothing about technology. Like this man like had like the hard, like technology was this man's mortal enemy, okay?
Yeah.
So we were late to the service, and we were driving up there, and we were speeding because my dad's a speed demon after all, right? And we
Yeah.
were just driving out there as fast as we can. My mom was always like, Woody, would you stop speeding? She was yelling at him the whole entire time, and he was just cutting people off left and right, just trying to get to where we needed to be.
Yeah.
And I remember he ended up cutting this car off, and it was like pretty much like maybe like 10 to 15 minutes before we ended up pulling into the driveway of our church. But the person that he cut off was the priest that was going to be
Oh.
doing the sermon, or the pastor that was going to be doing the sermon without knowing. And so my dad skirts into into the church parking lot and goes inside and gets ready. And as he's getting ready to set stuff up, the dude that he cut off walks past him and looks right at him, and you could see my dad sees that he's like the pastor and he's getting ready,
Yeah.
and he brings my dad up in front of the whole entire church, and does a sermon on patience. It was it
Oh.
was the fucking funniest thing. I love my dad to death, but boy, that must have been embarrassing for him,
Oh,
bro.
dude, I can imagine, bro.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that was one of the finer moments
That's
that
a good story. I like that one.
that was a pretty good one, and then
Yeah.
yeah, man. He was always such a goofball, like me and my brother get our really warped sense of humor from my dad. And I remember like one of the things that I'm gonna miss about him the most is on my birthday he would always get me these like like raunchy cartoon cards for
Okay.
like happy birthday cards, but they
Yeah.
were like the best like raunchy cartoon like animal cards, and just it was just so awesome, dude. It always made me laugh. It always put a grin on my face. Um, he was such a cool dude, and I like Kemper kind of touches on like what it was like with when my dad first got divorced with my mom. But like it was he was like he wasn't like our dad at that point. He was like our like best friend. So like we'd be
Yeah.
sitting on the couch with him. Like I remember like we would go to Blockbuster, right? And we would be like picking up like no, why not?
Oh, I guess yeah. What's done is done.
Like we'd be going to Blockbuster, right? And we'd pick up movies. Like I remember he would always pick movies like Rambo and like Commando and like
The best shit.
Terminator
The best
and
shit.
like Under Siege and like Lethal Weapon, all of those movies,
Action
like the
movies.
classic 90s and 80s action movies.
Anything that taught you about being like a man.
We were watching that. 100%. Like, you know,
I was like too.
and I remember we would always be sitting on the couch with my dad, and we would just watching movies on his TV, and he'd like crack a beer, take a sip from it, pass it to me. I'd take a sip from it, pass it to Kemper, take a sip from it, and we just pass it back to him. And it was just like
I wasn't two when I was taking the sip,
it was like we were just doing our thing with
I
it,
was
man.
little, you know, and it was only a 1 sip rule. And
Yeah.
I remember actually being little one time, and I had snuck his beer and drank the fuck out of it when he went to go to the bathroom, right? Because I was like, Dad does it, it's cool, and that's why you shouldn't do that. But you know, the next time Dad opened a beer, you know, like he got on my ass about that, but he poured this much vodka in the bottom of a little shot glass.
Oh man.
And gave it to me and said, "Do you want a drink? You see what this is about? Here, this is what this is what adults are doing."
Yeah.
You know, and I smelled it and I was like, and I drank it and I was like, ah!
Yeah.
He was like, "You'll live." He gave me some cranberry juice, and it was like a learning lesson. You know, I wasn't fucked up or anything. It was just like, fuck that.
That's tough, dude.
From that moment on, I didn't even like beer. I didn't, to this day, I barely like beer because I don't know. It was just like it deaded that shit in the tracks. You know, I was like, oh, shit. So I guess everything works out, right?
We had some pretty good times. One of my favorite things with my dad too was like he taught me how to make fires, bro. Like and like I loved campfires and stuff when I was a kid. He always showed me how to make like I got really good at it too. And but he would always call me like he and my grandma would always call me their little firebug. But they
Hey, one time Dad saved Colby because he fell in the fire.
Oh yeah,
we
that
had
was
like
crazy.
a bonfire, and Colby was mad little. We were out at the property in Vernonia, and my brother fell into the fire, and he went to catch himself, and he caught himself on a coal.
Yeah, like I grabbed a coal to like pick myself up, like out of like the fire,
and he was going face down into it. And our dad grabbed him by his jacket and was like, "Whoop!"
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. My dad caught me when I was falling out of the bathtub because when I was little, I tried to climb out of the bathtub. I did like a whoop. Yeah. I don't know how. And my head was just, I didn't have no neck then, so I guess my whole body just like fucking went. And imagine, you know, you're just a little baby, just like flying around. And I cracked my front tooth like straight in half, bro. But my dad caught me by my face and like my body, you know, and it was just the tip of my tooth that smacked the ground. And it hurt so bad, you know. It hurt so bad. And I just remember him like holding me and being like, you know, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, you know.
Yeah.
Like little shit, you know, like he loved Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like if I couldn't sleep because I was like scared of the dark and shit, he'd come over and sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to me. And like people wonder why I'm a Christmas nut, but like despite being broke, our parents would like wrap anything that they could into like presents. And they would always get a tree. My dad would go out and cut a big ass tree and like try and get it into the house. And then they would take our cats or our dog's paws and put them in the fireplace ashes and then stamp a card from Santa. And he'd make sure he ate the cookies but left just a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And in the morning, I remember they'd be like, he'd be like, "What? It's Christmas, guys. You gotta see, like, it's Christmas." And so like, what?
Our
You'd
dad
be like,
loves
"Check it out."
Christmas.
It's like, bro, look at this. So, like, if you got some animals, put yourself on game. Do that to your kids. See if they don't think Santa's real again. You know what I'm saying? Make it
Yeah.
like magical for them before, that innocent aspect of reality, is smashed out, because it's on you to make life beautiful, and to be a beautiful person. And the more that God cuts me, the more that, like, creativity comes out in different ways. And your creativity may be an interaction of letting somebody else know that they're doing a good job, you know, treating somebody else with respect, and interacting in a way that keeps that person's essence alive through you. So you never forget them.
Yo,
You
did you
know?
tell the midget story yet?
Oh shit! I have.
Okay, so I
All right.
remember one day my dad was like, we're playing hooky, okay, and
Alright.
so
Baby.
we were skipping school and we went to Mount Scott swimming pool. We always went to Mount Scott swimming pool if we were going swimming, and my dad loved doing chest strokes in the pool.
Yeah, he would swim a mile like multiple times a week, just straight.
Damn.
And he would brag that he could swim a mile without touching his feet or nothing, just straight breaststroke.
And
Yeah.
I remember this particular day we went there, and for some odd reason there was a midget convention there.
Yeah, it was a little bit special,
And
dude.
it was like, for some, I don't know why.
We're kids, right, showing up, and we can't make sense of this. We're just looking around like, Dad.
They're like us, but like they're like you. Like they got like your face, but like they got like our body. Like it was so
Like, what's
confusing.
going on here?
I was stripped the fuck out.
Yeah,
dude.
but they were having so much fun, and we were playing with them and shit, and it was like a festival, right? And we come home, my dad runs up to our mom, and he goes, "Ben, you wouldn't believe it. If there was one, there was 1,000." He was like, "I'm telling you, there were so many little people, you've never seen them in your life."
And she was like, yeah, my mom was always like, "You're kidding me," and she saw it in the paper. She was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're a magnet for wackadoodle moments, I guess. Because apparently, I don't know why we were just innocent because we were kids, just dad
Yeah.
taking his kids to the pool, But that was probably, when I think about it, like it was a convention. Like, I'm surprised that wasn't like rented or
It
something.
reminded me of like
you know what
Willow.
I mean? So they let us in there because we were the only people in there, and I'm like, we
Yeah.
couldn't have been the only people wanting to go swimming that day.
Yeah.
So we just were meant to have this magical, awesome moment, bro, and it was super dope.
It reminded me of like Willow with all like the little people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you see the movie,
Oh,
it's
man.
different now.
I
It's
was
different
like-
for us.
I was like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I thought you guys were only in movies, bro. Like, it tripped me the fuck out, bro. Like, I was like, if they're real, what else is real, Like, and then, like, I just, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, fuck, bro. Like, I've got so many questions.
Are dragons real now?
Right,
What the
bro.
fuck?
Like,
Yeah.
what else from fantasy movies are real? Fuck, bro. Like,
yeah, I guess that's being a kid, baby. Like, when you're a kid, you don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. You just out here. And shit, man, our dad worked in a lumber yard too.
oh yeah.
And this was part of, like, our dad was always strong and fit, but when he worked in this lumber yard, he told us, like, he used to eat mushrooms, and they would cut these logs that were like 16 footers, right? And they slide down the slide, and you have to grab them and like huck them and take them over here. Grab them, huck them, take them over here, and it's this whole production that they do all day long. And so he would do that. So my dad was like in really good shape, and he loved motorcycles. He loved riding motorcycles. And so him and his friends took the like little cat, the bobcat thing,
Yeah.
and went to their crib, right? And they built a legit like course, like a trick course, like BMX or
Dirt bike
motocross
paths.
like course in there.
What?
It was like out by a lake, and he was living with a friend of his that his family owned a liquor store or something, right?
Yeah, they owned a liquor
And so they would have these huge keggers, and he told me that it was so legendary because the cops came to this party, and it was such a massive party. Think about this. This is like the 70s, bro.
Mhm.
It's such a massive kegger that the cops just came to like direct traffic. They just didn't want
What?
to like fuck shit up, and get in car accidents. Yeah. And
That's
so they were just
crazy.
out directing traffic, and it was like this huge like festival.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Right on a lake, motocross shit, beers, like fucking the most American.
Yeah, I was about to say that's American as fuck, dude.
Yeah, and like so, like our dad. Let's just stop and just admit and salute our dad for being a fucking patriot. Like the reason why I bring up our country being a part of our responsibility is because of my dad.
Mhm.
And how he had respect for everyone in the military that has served, that has given their life for the betterment of trying to make a society where we can coexist um, in honor, and stand up for something, not just be in peacetime, but be at war for good reasons, here and far away. And if you're here, you got a responsibility to take care of the people that are far away. That was always how he saw it. And like the national anthem makes me cry to this day. Every time I hear it, like
One of the things that I don't know if you've ever seen A Few Good Men, Zach, with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, but at the very end when Jack Nicholson's giving his speech, it about why he gave the order to kill this one soldier, it always reminded me of how my dad would think about America, and it's an amazing speech by Jack Nicholson. It's that classic "You can't handle the truth" speech. It was just like my dad loved that movie too. He was like, every time I was just talking to him about it recently, and he was like, "Man, I love Jack Nicholson. He's always been one of my favorite actors." And my dad, like, he's where I got my love from movies from, just because like he always showed up and he always showed us like the coolest movies, even though if we weren't like the right age necessarily to watch movies, it was always so cool. Like,
but dig, I'm 27, so dad didn't have the time to show us that shit in the appropriate age, quote unquote. But like, he showed us dope shit. He took us to Robin Williams live.
yeah, dude, that was super cool. When we
What?
were
That's
kids,
dope.
like, you took us to like Robin Williams stand up, and I love Robin Williams.
Like as a kid, you're like, that's Miss Doubtfire, that's Hook, that's like,
Yeah.
or Pan, and he was just in
Flubber.
so many movies. Yeah, Aladdin, the genie,
Yeah.
like
when after my dad met my stepmom, you have to understand, like, we went from being able to watch like whatever the fuck we wanted with our dad to like only being able to watch like PG and G-rated movies when we were with my
Kid
dad and
stuff,
my
yeah.
stepmom.
our
So
stepmom was a school teacher for a long, long time.
Okay.
She taught little kids, so we went from our dad in like the uttermost turmoil of his life, holding it down and really trying to show up in the way that he could, emotionally, and not break down kind of shit. You know what I mean? Show us cool things, take us out, make sure that we knew how to, ride a bike, or make us do push-up competitions against each other, explain to us how the body works. So you can learn how to be healthy, what organs do what. I remember I was driving with my dad, and he would tell me, like, look at street signs, and he would explain to me that the city was like a grid,
Yeah.
and to follow, and he would have me like name the street signs, as we would go of the major streets, so I wouldn't get lost.
Yeah.
Like, these are little raw things that you can do. Um, and that's survival shit, that people
For
need
real.
to know to do that wherever they go. And so it's like I accredit a lot of those aspects of my personality, so many of them, in the who I am, in the when I feel vulnerable, in fight or flight, or when I feel that I gotta go at something, whether it's a confrontational situation, like that's a conversation, or just having to address somebody, you know, in the physical, like, and it's strange learning when to do what. Because when I was
Yeah.
in school, it got me into a lot of trouble, and I was a bit of a bully, but I was also like, I didn't necessarily like to fight for no reason.
Yeah.
I like the good one, and
I
so
like the good one.
I like the good one,
Yeah.
and so you take some L's sometimes, but they come in between the W's. I tell you the fuck what if you show up. And so, my dad just came from that era of like men that are like, you're smart, but we got to handle situations sometimes force on force, and that's
Yeah.
okay, And our dad told us about our past, and made sure that when we were little, we hung out around our elders. And although it was like something I didn't recognize at the time, it's a root structure and a system, because I never knew that when people pass, like Paul passed away and I learned so much, right? Um, but your best friend and your dad are different,
Yeah.
because that memory and that essence of like who makes you who you are, you know, rests with this person and their tendencies, who they are. And so you don't realize that having that system in place gives you the power to not lose where you come from as time goes by, because I had to look at like our dad ain't gonna be able to like hold our baby or something like that, when we have
Yeah.
babies and shit. It's like,
I'm never gonna be able to hug my dad again,
yeah, like
stuff like that,
like
or
don't take that shit for granted.
like I'm never gonna be able to have share another meal with my dad. My dad loves breakfast. I remember from like the
Ooh.
time we were kids growing up, we would always like go to breakfast places. And I remember this one particular time, my dad figured out about this place in Selwood called Fat Albert's, and from there it was fucking over. It was just fucking done. Like he just like
Omelets er day,
if he liked breakfast before, like he went into like breakfast like crack mode. Like he loved breakfast. Like and I remember like we would go there all the time, and it was like his breakfast spot down to the point of like the hours, because like my dad was like such an early riser like his whole entire life pretty much.
Yeah.
And he always like this place was only open until like maybe 1 or 2 o'clock. Like it opened at like 5 in the morning. So me and Kemper and my dad would always, even though he was an early riser, he let us sleep in until like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. But most of the time it was like 7:30, and we would always wake up and like he would say, like you want to go to Fat Albert's, and whenever we would go there, it was owned by this old woman that everyone called grandma, and we would always get like hot chocolate from her, and she would always make sure that we would get extra whipped cream in our hot chocolate, and she would make sure to bring it out to us. And so we would always be like, thanks, Grandma. So we got so used to like going there, and she got used to seeing us all the time with our dad, that we were like regulars there. And that's where I grew to love breakfast like places too. And that's just where I grew to love going to places like food places with my dad. Like we didn't really do too much like when it came to like going out and like actually doing activities, so to speak,
Yeah.
because it was always so hard for us to like find time to like for for us to do those things. But like when we always had time to really like go out and grab like food together, so like me and my dad were always grabbing food with each other. I mean, we were doing it with Kemp too all the time too. But he was always like saying, "Hey Cole, like you trying to go and are you trying to go to a breakfast place? I found this really cool new spot. I know you're gonna love it." The last one that he took me to was this place called the Plainsman in Vancouver. And oh man, it's such a good spot, dude. And it's been around. He would always take me to these spots that had like history. Like
Yeah.
like he was telling me like this spot's been around since the 50s. The woman that took our order had been working there at the diner for like 30 years, some ridiculous like long
Damn.
time like that. It was just like one of those Twilight Zone restaurants that you never find out, and like you just randomly appears out of nowhere because your dad decides like that he found it. So I was like, it even looks like it's like out of place. Like it looks like it belongs like in like the 60s or 70s, like
It's an older
In
establishment.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Damn.
But like um my dad loved food, and I loved like he loved pizza spots. Like I remember like we were always going to pizza spots, and
Oh
then
hell yeah.
we never he didn't really like taking us to like, or he didn't really like getting like Papa John's or Pizza Hut or you
Well,
know,
Yeah.
hold up.
but like he loved Papa Murphy's. Like that was his thing,
Yeah,
and the
cowboy pizza.
for the
yeah,
for the like at the beginning it was like cheese and pepperoni, and then he figured out about the cowboy pizza, and it was just fucking game over. Like every time he fucking went there, it was just cowboy pizza me up, you know. And it was just super funny, dude. Like I can't tell you how many times we've brought cowboy pizzas out to like my grandparents' house, like just stopping on the way to a
Oh, hold
Papa
on.
Murphy.
I want to say too, um, faith is so important, you know, and whatever your belief system is that you have, um, making sure that you and your partner can communicate and agree in those spaces gives such longevity um, and depth to endure the storms of life. And I saw that exemplified by my grandparents um, this weekend because my grandma, she took it like such a strong one.
Yeah, she's
You
100%
know,
a champ for
um,
that. I will give you
and my
that.
grandpa too. You know,
Both are.
um, you it's a parent's not supposed to bury their kid. You know,
Mm.
but when it happens, uh, if your beliefs all get really beyond tested, they get thrown and scattered, and you're like, what the fuck, and I always said that emotions are like a minefield. You don't know until you step on something and it just blows up and you're like, what is going on? Like when you hear a song that reminds you of someone or a situation, whatever it may be. But yeah, family is important, and in terms of like your relationship with your partner, making sure that you can be strong together is super duper important, and can talk and come together, and each person has a place for one another in that dynamic. Like independence is good, um, but we can't make each other obsolete, um, and that's just a huge factor in life, and we all have to take our responsibility of why our women feel this way, why our kids may feel a certain way, and why we feel how the fuck we feel.
Yeah.
Figure out how to say that shit, because some of it, like I saw. Here, hold on, I got it. I was going through my stuff, looking at a book.
I'm gonna pause this because I really gotta go to the bathroom.
Go for
So
it.
I'll be
Zack,
back.
I gotta take this.
I got to, bro. And we're back.
You know, I don't know if Kemper told you about how my dad died. Has he told you yet?
Yeah, he went through it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. I was the one that got the call from the coroner.
Mhm.
So, it was really weird. The only reason they got the call was because I was the last one to call my dad.
Wow.
And because I was always talking, like the last year or two, I was talking to my dad. On a regular basis, like when I say that man was like my best friend, I really mean that man was my best friend, like, and he was always super excited and proud of me that like I I wasn't drinking, and that
Yeah.
I wasn't and that I was in school, and that like I had found something that I was really passionate about because I finally started. I love working with my hands, but I finally found something that I really enjoy. And hang on. And so even though like he didn't really understand it when I was talking to him about welding on the phone, and I mean, how can you unless you know what welding is technically? Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna understand what I'm saying. He was just super excited to hear from me, and uh, I had left him a voicemail at about like 11 in the morning, like 11:20 in the morning, and I was like, hey dad, like just want to let you know I got a B on my final. At this date is like the 1 year date of my anniversary, and from alcohol, and I know you were always proud of me about not drinking, so
He's really proud of you.
I was like, I just wanted to let you know that like I hit that 1 year mark, and I know that you were super
Fuck yeah,
proud
dude.
that I was almost there,
Mm-hmm.
And then I get home at at about like 11:45, and about like 12:10, 12:20, I get a call from the coroner pretty much telling me, and
Yeah,
he had like a medical emergency, and he was on his way to work. And it was about like 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was just there was only like about like one other person on the road, and they said that when my dad fell asleep at the wheel of his car, or at least it looked like that, because like he was slumped over at the wheel, and he had hit a telephone pole and went through that, and hit a semi truck, and it was like a parked semi truck, but I think he hit the back end of it, the trailer, where the trailer is, and sustained a massive blunt force trauma to to his head, and he was about 3 minutes away from his work when it happened, and he was asleep the whole entire time, or he was out the whole entire time, so like he didn't feel any pain, and that's like that's really the only silver lining that I can see in this whole thing, because it would have just torn me up twice as bad if I knew that he had suffered at the end and like conscious during this,
Yeah.
but you know he
you know,
he like I think that he wanted me to know first, and that was one of the reasons why I got the call, because they couldn't unlock his phone when they had to use the jaws of life to like get him out, to like cut him out of his car,
Yeah.
and like they took him to the hospital, and like his vitals were there, but he just wasn't, and then like he was just gone, but what's it called, you know uh he would always tell me, son, it's your time, everything happened for a reason, and as fucked up as that, like, it sounds like a good statement at first, but like when something happens tragic to you, you're like, everything happens for a reason. That's fucking bullshit. What the fuck,
Yeah.
And I can't understand why this happened. I really can't, because he had so much life ahead of him, and he was so happy, and he had just gotten a really good raise, and he was just doing really really good in his life, and
Mm.
he was very the spot that he was in was like one of the best spots he'd had ever been in his life, and I was super proud of him, and it really hurts me knowing that like I'll never be able to speak to my dad again, or like give him a call, or
bro.
just do simple stuff with him, even if it's just like like
So I just found out. So our dad was addicted to peppermint patties. This is
Okay.
kind of sorry, I'm taking a detour real quick, but our dad was addicted to peppermint patties, and apparently they're painting a huge mural of a peppermint patty in the medical station, and I'm
Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, it's tight, like
That is really cool.
that
It's very special.
that people at the prison know that he cared about them, and we want to take his book collection because he loved reading. Our dad was a ferocious reader, and he uh he had a bunch of Tom Clancy books and all different kinds of novels. He loves
Mm.
stories, so we're giving those to the inmates and stuff, so they can pass those around, because we know he would have wanted that. And it's like you just start thinking about the cool shit that you can do,
Yeah.
rather than sitting on it. And you got to take that shit to the chin and just keep pushing,
Chin
and
out, chest out. Chin up, chest out.
just know that like God wouldn't allow something to leave your life before you got what you needed from them, and that person's influence, and what that situation is, and it all prepares you for what's to come. So when you're in the middle of it, don't try and understand it in the big picture sense.
Yeah.
Just get through that shit, and do it in a way that is uncompromising with what you dream and desire for your life, and even if you don't know that this is the end all be all thing, it will lead to the thing. And if you do it right, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, and you have the discipline to find joy when you don't like what you're doing, you'll get wherever you're trying to go, and you'll achieve great things. And as a father, you can be fucked up in the beginning and make mistakes, and turn it all the way around. And um, Nipsey Hussle said progress isn't um, based on the same metrics that most people think. It's where I started and where I ended, you know,
Mm.
um, and that distance in between is it means everything, you know. So don't judge yourself based on the world and what you think is supposed to be um, perfect out of yourself. Try to be, to the best of your ability, and apologize where you can't, and have fun trying to do what the fuck you're trying to do. Live like an
Yeah.
outlaw a little bit. Break the rules that are unnecessary, and fuck what someone has to say about what makes you happy. You know, just try to be a good person. Um, and I was talking about, kind of how effort sometimes can make you feel foo-foo when you have to make it, and it's not, don't degrade yourself through the experience, because like my dad, I just found this book, when I was going collecting, and it said, talk to me like I'm someone you love. And as a man, I've always struggled to be intimate and vulnerable with people, and really give them my deepest parts of me. And this is a book that's something that goes beyond just like um, intimacy with your partner, it's intimacy with other people. And I was like reading through it, and my stepmom's a teacher, right? So like my dad's caveman, and she's a teacher. Although my dad's a genius when it comes to anatomy, and when it comes to like history and things like that. When
Yeah.
it comes to this emotional realm, after being hurt so deeply, he was like, "Fuck that shit. I'm not gonna cry again. I'm not gonna go back there. I'm gonna be better than that. I don't want to experience that." And I started reading this, and um, I'm just gonna read two things and then conclude that thought. So one of them is a saying that says, I know I'm being defensive. Can you say this in a less charged way so I can feel safe around you? And that might be something that sounds like, who would need to be that soft? If you're with someone, they should know that you're not going to hurt them. But maybe you're with someone who's been hurt before you, you
Yeah.
know? And it's a way to build trust. And like this next one says, I wish you could hear me, or I wish you could hear this as me saying yes to myself, not no to you. And
Yeah.
being a dad, like he never said this verbatim to me, but like he lived the shit that he read through this, and it's okay to use the resources um, that may seem unlikely to change a person that's rough, that's rough around the
Yeah.
edges, um, and we need to know that because whether you're a son right now or a father, you're gonna be one of the two probably, you know. And if you wind up being in that position, um, it's nice to have a little bit of not preparation if you don't do it in advance, but if
Mhm.
you're, trying to catch up, have uh, something to fall back on.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a person where you have to, in that moment, feel so vulnerable with them. You can do this with yourself and figure out like how the fuck would I feel if like no one's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
What? No one's ever asked me that. Shit, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
Um, like once you realize what you can have and how beautiful things can be, and just how you learn to treat other people by how you carry yourself, it kind of completes this circle. Um, and as long as you keep doing that, you're going to be giving and receiving, and it'll give you a balance in your life. Um, and you're going to stumble because that's the fun of it. Once you get going really quick, it's like, all right, how can I maintain this momentum?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not gonna, and you're gonna fail. Just, try not to fail in the same area every day, as TD Jakes would say. Or Dr. Seuss, that shit. By the way, my dad loved Dr. Seuss, and that was my first book report, and I
Okay.
love that. That's just a random tidbit. Um, but our dad would teach us um, things as we would. I would play football with him. I'd play catch with him every day. He would pick me up because when he could see us at the time, there was some
Oh
like
yeah.
custody stuff going on and things like that. And so how he could see us would be to pick us up after school because our mom was at work and take us home. And if we had a study break, or he would feed us, and then take us home. And that was like his time that he could spend with us. And
Yeah.
just ask us, like, what did you learn today? How did it go? And to kind of like fact check things. And we would try and escape the school subject really quick and talk about more cool stuff because he would shy away from telling us real things. Like I remember one time, this was like to no fault of his own. He was studying, medical books and how to help people who have had pencils stuck in their eyeball
Whoa.
because he's encountered this before,
Yeah.
by the way, multiple times. And I looked in the back seat of the car, and I'm in like sixth grade, and it was one of his books that he had been studying, and it was like it had flopped open, and I saw this person with like a pencil in their eyeball, and I was
Fuck.
like, at first, yo, but I was like, Dad, what the fuck do you do? What do you do? And my dad was explaining me like how to kind of get it fixed so that way the person isn't seeing light and needing to orient their eyeball a certain way,
Yeah.
and kind of keep it stationary. And just some of the different procedures. I don't remember it in detail, but like he would fix everything. People getting cracked in the face with a bar of soap and their eyeball pops out, and
Fuck.
broken jaws, all kinds of shit like that. He would have to treat people and make sure like he's saved heart attacks and like all different kind of stuff where he made judgment calls in this amount of time, you know, um, where shit was kind of crucial.
Yeah.
And so I want him to be remembered for his finer moments, and respected for handling himself and handling his children with love, even when he had his bouts of impatient flare up, and anger, and navigating that in front of us in such an authentic way.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't hide it, and he felt proud, but he was hurt. And I watched a man become a man again in the journey of his life. And so like when he passed away, he died happy, and he wasn't in pain when it happened. He was, as he would say, a bug on a windshield. Because my dad would tell me we're all terminal. And every day I wake up, I just say thank you. I thank God every day as I come to work for my boys and the ability to provide and having something that I love, that affects other people in such great ways, and um, and so that was me being able to see him take this transition through depression and financial strife to overcoming that and getting himself in a place where he was solid and was finally willing to take medication to help him just slow his brain down a little bit so he
Yeah.
could have a second before reacting and learning these life skills that a lot of men need to know that they can do this, and you're not less of a man for it. You're not imperfect because of it, and we should take our our quality of life as a portion of our health
Yeah.
and really honor that. And my dad had such zest for life, and um to come from that is really a blessing and an honor. And so I gotta like tip my hat to my dad and salute him because he wore his heart on his sleeve and he always tried. And I, as a kid, something I have to live with is, oh, I was so hurt, and I was so mad for him being gone, not being able to see him and all the shit I saw my mom go through. That, he would try and talk to me, and I would just be nasty to him sometimes.
I know, me too.
And that's something I gotta live with, and it goes back to that respect is for you too. You don't know that shit until it's too late. So watch how you treat people, bro. For real. That's what the world needs. And it might be a slap in the face. And there's so many people that have lost so much, especially after COVID and everything, and that dealing with untimely loss, is something that the world and each person is going to need help with at some point if you walk. And so these are life skills, like one of the things that really helped me when Paul passed away was I would force myself to go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it so there really wasn't any food at my house. And I was only really eating like one meal a day and kind of snacking here and there when I had a craving. But I knew I needed to keep things in my system to kind of give me a chemical buffer between my emotional reaction, to try and stack the cards in my favor to deal with this. And I would try and do some form of exercise. Some days, all I could do was go to the mini mart and get a frozen something. But interacting with people and getting out of your house brings reality to you. And so, with everything that happened with COVID, you need to get outside. You need to treat your body. You need to take baths and stretch, and just as much as you work out, proportionately. You need to make sure that you're checking in with your own emotions and making sure that you're not working for nothing, that your money's actually being stashed away and used proportionately in a way that gives you life, whether that's
Yeah.
one ski trip. Like when I was little, our mom used to save every year just so we could go back and visit the family for like Thanksgiving or Christmas. That was all we got. We got one, but it was a fucking good one, that we won't forget, And so if that's all you can do for yourself, if you don't have kids, And when you do have kids, you need to do that for yourself too. You need to make sure that you still live, and it's a journey that a kid will learn to appreciate later, because you don't know, even if all you can get is some popcorn, the kid's just happy to have popcorn,
Yeah.
They don't just try and get a drink of some sort. It's like bum of water from them, please. Those not fucking cottonmouth kids.
For real, bro.
But be a responsible parent. But even if you're broke, you can still be responsible. This is the
Yeah.
bright side. And I want to say thank you to anyone who is this interested in us and hearing our story, and really wanting to respect where we're coming from and why I did this. I didn't want it to just be a post, where people could like it and feel bad and not have anything from it,
Yeah.
I want to give you life, I don't care if my dad's not here in the physical to support me, I'm going to be super blessed as I go forward because I'm going to try and give the best of me to everything that I do, and he always wanted to be on the podcast, and thought it was cool I had a radio show because that's how he understood it.
Yeah, my dad was so old school. I loved it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm really broken hearted in times, but for the most part I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I'm proud that he lived his life and got to experience things that I wouldn't have time to buy him, because I always wanted to tell him, like, when he would be like, if I win the lottery, I'm getting my Porsche. I was like, you won the lottery. You got me for a son. Like, I'm supposed to be able to provide, and I've always felt that, like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to take care of you, because I always knew, like, our parents are older than a lot of kids' parents are, Like, my mom had me when she was, like, 38. So, my dad lived a lot of life in his 63 years, and I'm really proud of him for the man that he is, and teaching your kid how to chop wood, the essentials, how to build a fire, how to handle your wife, like, I remember when he would introduce our mom, he would be so proud, and my stepmom, and when he would open the door for them and kind of guide them in with his hand along their back and stuff, and as soon as he would see us, he'd grab us and just
He'd always
check if we're strong.
He'd
You know
always
what I
either
mean? Be like,
grab
"What's
our
up?"
shoulder or grab our knee.
Yeah,
like
be like,
that.
what you got? What are you working with? Have you been building yourself? He's checking in.
Yeah.
And like that's cool. To know that you're seen, and for anyone that's a child that didn't get that, know that it's okay, and that it's okay if you don't feel you have the same toolbox of memory. Treat people the way you wanted to be treated,
Yeah.
and learn from who you can. If there's a happy couple who's successful that have been around, observe them, because their life is something that is a spectacle, and that's what this podcast is meant to give, a cherishing spectacle to people, and honor them, before this situation happens, while they have a chance to tell their story,
Yeah.
and that's big time important. Do you have any questions? I'm reading this kind of feed because I'm seeing if anyone from my family in this group chat is going to say anything that they want said. So we'll see.
No, I mean,
But go ahead.
I don't really have any questions. I mean, so far you guys have told a story that's really easy to follow. And it comes with a lot of lessons too. And I think if people have made it this far and have listened to what you guys are saying, they'll learn a lot of lessons before they actually have to need them. And I
Just
think that
take
that's a
care of your
big
parents.
service.
Make sure you, all I can say, like most people don't have situations arise in their life where people are taken from them suddenly. Like
Yeah.
most people don't have a best friend who was murdered or a father who died in a car crash suddenly. It doesn't happen to a lot of people, but the ones that do understand the finality of life, and you don't realize how much shit you take for granted. One
Yeah.
of the things that you know, one of the things that is something that's always gonna eat at me. 'Cause I'm a really big stoner. I love smoking weed. And it's just one of those things that eats that I do. When I have nothing else to do. And you know, a lot of the time when my dad would hit me up to go out to his house for dinner and everything, it was never like he always sprung it on me last second. So I'd be like really stoned and I'd be like in my bed or my jammies and I'd be all comfy and everything.
Yeah.
And he hit me up at like 6:30 or like 7:30 or something like that at night, and and be like, uh, hey Cole, like what are you doing? I'm grilling some chicken on the barbecue if you want to come up, or I'm making some fried rice with Paula if you guys want to come up for dinner. Paula was his wife.
Yeah.
And I'd always be like, like sometimes I'd go up, but a lot of the time I would be like, hey, it's pretty late, pops. I'm all comfy, and I'm just getting ready to gear down to go to bed, or to just cozy up for the night. Turn in for the night. Um, do you mind if I catch up with you tomorrow or some other time? And he would always be appreciative that even though like I turned him down, he was always like, I still was like, I want to see you, but I'm just like, I'm just really comfy right now. And would you mind if I caught up with you like tomorrow or later on in the week? And he was always cool with it. He never held it against us or anything. But in my head, and heart, I kind of hold it against myself that I was smoking weed instead of being able to hang out with my dad.
Yeah.
And he was a big stoner, and so like I bet he's looking down at me thinking like, I get it, don't even worry about it, like everybody has their own life, because he would always tell me, like, you guys are living your own life. Yeah, you guys are living your own life. It's like I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was your age once too. Like a lot of times, like you don't want to hang out with the parents. You want to do. You want to hang out with your friends or go and do stuff you want to do, like with girls or whatnot. Like you want to live your life. I don't hold that against you one bit. And even though I know he doesn't hold it against me, like I still feel. You wish you could. I still feel a little guilty. Just
Yeah.
like knowing that like I was just like a bonehead, and great way to put it, bro. Just just over here on cloud nine smoking weed all day, and I know my dad never held it against me, like I was saying. He would like some of the times he would come over and look at my bong and just give me a smile and shake his head, but like it wasn't mad at me or anything, but it was like, man, like like you're fucking up your health. Yeah, he was always being like, like because when you see a bong that gets dirty, you're like, what the fuck is that doing to my lungs? And you're like, you clean it so it doesn't trip you out until it trips you out again. You're like, what am I doing with myself? But that's such a good thing that you touched on, Cole, because we take for granted time and how we spend it, and oftentimes, after you go, I think almost everyone down that road of addiction, and you really take inventory as you're on the other end of it. Um, And it doesn't have to be like extreme addiction. Sometimes we're addicted to just um, emotions, you know,
Yeah.
and we're unwilling to change until
We're forced to.
we're able to detach from the situation, look at what it is, see how we initially knee jerk feel about it, what's more productive, and what do I want to choose. You know, I can choose this. I'm not wrong for choosing how I feel in the knee jerk sense, you know,
Yeah.
That's
but
awesome.
choosing it not from an emotional standpoint. And I think that um, when we're smoke, whether you're smoking weed or whatever it is that you're doing that might take up a lot of your time and be a part of your routine, you know, don't let that get between the things that really matter to you in life, because regret sucks. And when you're dealing with that shit, you know, it comes and goes, and it'll normally hit you out of left field when you're feeling down about something else, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when it's something like this. And so you need to have tools in your toolbox, you know, to know how to deal with not only yourself um, through your hardship, but go forward with your best foot of trying to create a communal atmosphere for whatever your tribe is, you know.
Yeah.
Take that time with your family, even if they're not blood, you know, but blood family really fucking matters, and people overlook that because people have different paths, and sometimes we don't act right. But ain't nobody perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And who can spank you if not someone that loves you, you know? That's who you're supposed to be checked by, because they have a whole history to reference in regards to who you are, and, you know, in your life and where you're going, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's shit that you just want to know. You're like, man, you haven't told me a story in a minute. Come up off a story, Dad. You know,
Yeah.
come up off a story, Mom. You know, I need to hear that shit, you know, and it's so crazy because our dad invited us up to his house. And it's like your spirit lets you know before you're going to pass. He invited me the day before, and I misunderstood his text. I thought he was confused. I was like, Dad, we were supposed to go up Saturday. And he was like, yeah, but I'll take you Friday night too. But the way that he worded it, my dad used to, the most articulate dude, well-read dude, type like
Yeah.
a total fucking 13-year-old. And I couldn't understand. I was like the old man writing books to him, you know? And I would just get so frustrated trying to text him that I didn't go up there that night. And then the next night would be the last time that we go up and have dinner with him. And as I was sitting there at dinner with our elders, I said, we all should go down to Bend where my grandparents live and record the family history so our grandchildren can hear it
Oh yeah.
in our voices, you know, and in your voices.
Mm-hmm.
And I so did not think my dad, you know, our great aunts are like in their 70s going on 80s, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I did not think our dad was going to be the one that fucking went,
Kick the bucket first.
you know.
Yeah.
And side note, get some fucking life insurance. Make
Yeah.
sure you have fucking life insurance. I
Mhm.
don't care how good your career is, you know, strive for that. Make sure that you're set up, and I don't care how bad your career is. Get fucking set up for the people around you, you know? And it's so crazy. I was telling my dad from the beginning of this year, you know, that my mom told me what to do when she passes, you know, and I was telling him, Dad, we gotta really talk because I need to know what happens if something happens to my dad.
Right.
You know, like what do I do so it ain't on my mama? You know, so it ain't on my grandma, and my grandpa and his wife. You know,
Yeah.
we like, what do I do? Because I can handle it. It's phone calls and all kinds of stuff, and it's things that you don't want to hear or do, but are necessary.
You just
And
have to, you know.
I was telling him for months, bro, and then he passes away. You know, and it's like I don't know in my head I didn't get the correlation, you know. But
Nope.
it's so strange, you know, like you can't blame yourself, and I don't walk around with like regret about it, you know. but it just I'm tripped the fuck out. And so it's like trust your instincts and shit like that, you know?
Literally, like I don't know why I said literally. I don't remember if I know it sounds stupid, but I can't remember if I gave my dad a hug or not the last time I saw him. Like, I know I hugged him when
You hug him every time you see him.
I know I hugged him when I got there, but I don't know if I gave him a hug if I at the
Yeah,
end
you
of it.
did.
But I remember the last thing that my dad said to my brother and I was he looked at my brother because my brother drove up there and was like, "How's your gas? Do you need me to fill your tank up?" You know, he was always doing stuff like that. He was always so generous, you know. And my brother looked at him and was like, "Nah, pops, I had just filled my tank. We're good." And
I
it,
didn't have a full tank, but I didn't want to take anything from him, you know? And I was like proud because I wanted him to see this Benz that I've been working on, you know, and I'm finally like in the Benz and whatever. And so I'm just standing there and I'm just kind of looking at him and I didn't realize, you know, it was kind of a proud moment, you know, where I was kind of like, no, I got this, you know, and I didn't know that I got this now because I'm like, I don't got this, you know, like what the fuck, I should have taken you up on that, you know, but in a real raw way, like our dad just is a funny, fucking all love dude who will be. This is my mom's words. He will be so missed, and he will always be so well loved. And you know, like you don't know what that's gonna do to your mom because you know you're not there. Went through a lot of that in um, growing up. You know, they're behind the scenes conversations and all the journeys that happened before you ever showed up. You know, like our our family's always been mad outdoorsy. You know, and like all we had was this fireplace in the front of the house for a while because like if we would only use the gas sparingly because we couldn't heat the house and pay the bills at the same time like that. So they would take us out in the woods with little backpacks and get
yeah,
sticks
we'd always go and grab
and
sticks and like
kindling and
fire
stuff.
for the wood, you know,
And
or
that was an adventure for us.
for the stove.
You know what I mean? We got our
Yeah.
hands in the dirt and shit, and like you got to let your kids really get a zest for life. You know, even if it seems like, ugh, I don't want to have to wash him off or like shit like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's gotta be frustrating when it's like, you know, especially if you're already lower income, because chances are you're already struggling for time in your life to make time for things, you know, and be responsible. Just baseline, you know,
Yeah.
but you don't need a lot of money and you don't have to be perfect or in good spirits to kick it, you know, come through. That's what this community thing is all about. And what we want to do is just inspire people to be the best that they can be. And our dad was the best example of that that I've ever seen in terms of just discipline, hard work, love, just unconditional love
Loyalty.
and loyalty, you know, and being about your family and being about your fellow people, you know, your brothers and sisters, kids, and community. And I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to share.
I do.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've ever seen Uncle Buck. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a movie that my dad showed my brother. He's the one who introduced my brother and I to it because my mom used to date this dude that is now a family friend of ours. He's been a close family friend of ours on my mom's side for decades now. And this dude, he he reminds me of Uncle Buck to a T. Like he's like the living version of Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
But at the end of that movie, you see Uncle. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it ends with Uncle Buck just smiling and putting up his hand and waving at you.
Yeah.
And one of the last times, or the last time, the very last time we were with my dad, we were getting in. My brother he asked my brother if he could fill his tank, and my brother was like, "No, we're good, Dad," you know. And we're walking over to we were right out like by his house, by his front door, like in his like walkway, walking up to his house when this was happening, and uh he like went like that to like my brother, and he looked at him and smiled, and then we walked over to my dad. We walked over to my brother's car and turned around and looked at my dad. And he just went like this. It's like hi, and it just reminded me of that scene from Uncle Buck, the last scene when it was just like a goodbye thing, and it it like still gets to me, you know. Like I I know that um my dad's still around us and he's watching over us and everything, but it's this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through in my life, and I've already been through one of my best friends being murdered. Um, I don't know what would be harder than this, other than like just pure agony, and that like I, I don't I don't wish this on anybody or any person. It doesn't sound like I'm very emotional right now, but I've just cried so much within the last couple of days that I'm kind of very numb. It comes and it goes in waves. For me, after losing my dad, like I said, that man was my best friend. Like I talked to him every day or every other day, damn near for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, the hardest part for me is it's at night. I'm such an insomniac that like I'm always up. And that's one of the reasons why I was always smoking a lot of weed too. Is just like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, "Damn it! Like it's like 2 in the morning. Why am I up? Like, gotta smoke another bowl to go back to sleep or something."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I don't really know where I was going with that, but like I just wanted to say that like because of the fact that I know where I was going with that. Because of that, like, and when I'm alone with my thoughts, that's when it hits me the most. Like when I'm by myself, like, cause I know that Kemp's in the house and my roommate and his girl are here too, sleeping. But like when I'm like the only one up at night, and it's just like me and my thoughts, and like I want to just call my dad in the worst way, or like reach out to him, like I'll speak to him out loud, or I'll play a song for him or something like that. But it's the hardest. That's the
But that's
hardest time
real.
for me.
That and sorry. I don't
I
mean to
know
cut
it's
you off.
kind of like when I almost feel like it's when I'm closest to him, when it's like it's just nobody up but like me and him at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But it it literally feels like I just like I have a piece of me that's just like missing, like
Yeah.
as if like um here's a good way to describe it. For someone that always conceal carries every single day, and while out of their house and they accidentally forget that they don't have their concealed carry on them, it's like a piece of them is missing. It's like you don't know. It's like
You're used to having it on.
you're
Yeah.
so used to having
It's
it
like a
on you
part of
that
your
it's
body,
like
kinda. I get you.
it's off. It's not right.
Yeah.
And it literally feels
It's
like
like your phone in your pocket
it
for other people.
it literally feels like stole a piece of my heart, and
Sorry.
won't ever get it back. I won't ever get it back. But the
What are
it
you trying to say?
it's just hard. Like I don't really. I'm kind of just rambling right now. I don't really
I,
know
I
how
just
to
want.
say anything.
That was
But
great that you let that out because that's what people need to know.
you know,
That's gonna happen, and it's constructive too. For your soul to expose that. And there's some things that you need to guard and keep close, and that was something that really played into this. And I really judged if we were gonna do this and put it out in front of the world because what would the world think? but fuck what the world thinks. You know what I mean? Be who you are, and rep for your family, and take pride. And it shouldn't just be when your father passes that things like this happen. You know, we need to honor people while they're living, and when they die, we need to celebrate them and really carry their legacy into the future. The means of things like social media, so that way the next generation, because who knows who will stumble on this someday. I just hope that it helps you, you know, and doesn't make you sad, but shows you an example of how to go through experiencing something that could be traumatic at a time that seems it's most inopportune, you know, losing your dad right before Father's Day. But knowing that you gained so much from that that it could never have left, you're never alone, you know, you'd be scared. And I just want to read some stuff and then we'll kind of play a song and get out of here. Um, and so this is from Paula Woodruff, my dad's wife. And she said, I want you to talk about how humble our dad was, but really talk about how his work community supported him, and not just the medical staff, but lots of other non-medical staff as well as the inmates. I wouldn't say, um, I wouldn't say anything bad about him ever, and that I was so loved by him, and that love can heal a heart when you build relationships, and that he always wanted to build relationships no matter where he was, and he did everything he could to help people be successful after release, and that he would see them on the street sometimes, and he would love nothing more than to buy somebody a coffee, shake their hand, and tell them they're proud free man, and ask them how they're doing and congratulate them. And he never would treat them less than himself. Just because they were incarcerated didn't mean he was going to treat them as anything less than a family member or a random person on the street, for that matter. And as he would go to work, there was a couple homeless people along the way, and he would pack them a lunch every day because he refused to give them money.
Yeah, he would always say that. My dad would always say, I'll never give a homeless person money, but if they're hungry at all, I'll always give them a slice of pizza.
And he even gave his snowboarding jackets and stuff or ski gear when he wasn't using, and outlived it, you know, to homeless people in the wintertime and stuff. And he remembered to talk about his poor guardian angels and how they worked so much overtime.
Yeah, my dad was
because
always
our
saying,
dad was in countless car accidents. One time, my dad was driving because he was always on the mountain. You know, he loved the mountains. He was driving with his friend around this corner, and he didn't know that they hit a patch of black ice. And I think they had like snowmobiles or bikes in the back of their truck. And the weight of the truck, when it hit the edge washed out underneath them, and they were like fishtailing, and the truck flipped over the edge of a mountain and landed on a tree. And my dad had to climb like 200 meters up, and his friend had like broken his leg, and it was his friend was just crying because the bikes were fucked, and they like had to watch the bikes just like tumble down into this abyss of a valley. And he outlived that. And one time back in like the 80s or 70s, there was a family vacation where he was driving, and it was in like on the Baja Peninsula, so it was like undeveloped pretty much back in the 70s, you know. And it was late at night, so there's no lights anywhere, and the road was like this thin strip of road with a bunch of gravel kind of on the side because the water would come in on both sides. And his truck somehow did a very similar thing where it caught the edge and went down like that. And so my dad went to correct and kind of overcorrected, and they had a bunch of camping stuff in the back, so it swung the truck around, flipped it, and it bounced off the side of the truck that my uncle was on and landed on its uh like feet. So my dad kick flipped a fucking car. Pretty cool.
That's gnarly.
Before eventually fucking ending up getting smacked. But it lets you know that everything happens for a reason. And you can trust that. And he's probably rolling, laughing in one sense, and apologizing like nobody's business and saying shit, just like he normally would, be throwing a fit. But I know that he's gonna watch over us now more than ever before.
Yeah, he will.
And so I just want to say thank you to everyone that made it far. You have so much love and respect from us, and we really hope that your hearts are strong if you ever have to go through anything that's trying, and know that we're here for you. And if you ever need anything, there's people that are here and willing to listen, and you can always reach out. And if you have no one else to reach out to, shoot Wonderful Entertainment a message, Kemper Woodruff a message directly, because I'm not usually on the Wonderful Entertainment. We're not a suicide helpline by any means, and I'm saying that with all love and respect in my heart. We're qualified individuals. We're the homies. All right, all right, we're the homies. We're trying, we're not meant to talk you off the ledge. We'll just try our best. I mean, fucking give us a break. All right, a lot is going on. So, I just want to try and make light of the situation. And we're going to pull up a song. So, do I have to share my screen to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't have Spotify, so you might have to do it on your end. Can you pull up Spotify?
Yeah, I can do it. What's the name of the song?
Simple Man by Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
Ooh, good song.
We're going to give our dad a rock and roll send off and let him know that he made two good boys, and we try our best for him every day, and even harder now.